Hello friends, welcome to second session on conditions and if statements. So let's start with this session. In previous session we understand the importance of else if statements. So we understand that in order to find out the greatest of three numbers, we can write the efficient code with the use of if else if statements. Before moving next, let us consider this code. Here we are having three numbers with A as greatest. We are having first if statement where we are comparing A with B and C. Then we are comparing B with A and C, and then we have else statement, and in this we are printing the value of C. My question is, if I execute these three statements, what will be the output? So please take your time. You can pause the video at this point and try to find out the answer. If I execute these lines of code, what will be the output? Okay. To check the answer, let's execute these statements. The output is 29 and 23. The question is, why we are getting 23? Let's understand the reason of this output. Here, it will execute first if statement, and in this case, this condition is true because A is the greatest number, so it will print A. Then, since these are two different if statements, so it will execute second if statement, and in this case we are comparing B with A and C, and since B is not greater than A and C, so this if condition is false. Since the second if condition is false, so it will execute its else part. So in else part we are printing the value of C. So that's why we are getting these two statements executed, print A and print C. So first if condition is true, that's why we are getting A, and the second if condition is false, the code is executing else part, so that's why we are getting print C as the output. So I hope you got my point. The final conclusion is that this else corresponds to second if statement, and since second if statement is false, so this else will be executed. Now let us consider this code. Here again we have same input, and I am using if else if this time. The second if is actually else if, and I am also using else statement. This time we are using else with if else if. Can you tell me what will be the output if I execute these lines of code? Please take your time, give a thought, and try to find out the output of these lines of code. You can pause the video at this point. Okay, in order to check the answer, let's execute these statements. Earlier, you remember when we have two if statements with else, this else was associated with second if, and we were getting two outputs, 29 and 23. This time we have same inputs. Now we are using if, else if, and else. So let's execute these statements, and you can see that we are getting only 29. We are not getting 23 this time. What is the reason for that? So here, else actually has a different purpose. Actually, this else is associated with all the if statements which are written above that. This means this else will execute only if both of these if statements are false. So it means in this case, it will first execute this first if condition. This is true. So if this condition is true, no else part will be executed. So this else if and else will not execute, and simply it print A and come out of this. Now let's suppose if the number is like this. So this time the first if condition is false. So it will keep on checking second if condition. So in the second if condition, it is comparing B with A and C, and B is largest. So it will print B. So after printing B, it will come out, and again this else will not execute because one of if statement is true. So it will print 2, 3, 3 this time. So you can see that you are getting this number. Now, in order to execute this print C, this print C will only execute if all of these if statements are false. It means that it will only execute if C is the greatest number. So let's suppose these are the numbers. First if condition is false, so it will check else if. This second if condition is also false, so it will come at else part, and this time it will print C. So let's execute this. So you are getting the largest of these three numbers. So you can see that the largest of these three numbers can be written by two possible ways. One, by using this else, and second by using these else if statements. You can see that this code is smaller in size and it is producing the same output. And we can also use this code to find out the greatest of three numbers, which simply say that if A is greater than B and C, then we are printing A. If A is not greatest, then we are checking it for B. And if both A and B are not greatest, then only it simply prints C without performing any comparison, because we have three numbers, and if A is not greatest or B is not greatest, then automatically C is the greatest, and this way it is working fine. So this is all about this session. I have one assignment for you. Try to implement a function which prints the greatest of three numbers. You know that earlier we implemented a greater function for finding out the greater of two numbers. Now this time, since we know how to find out the greatest of three numbers, this time try to create a function to find out the greatest of three numbers by adding first number, second number and third number as parameters. So I hope you can do this. Please take your time to execute this. Please watch next video to check out the solution of this problem. And all the code discussed in this video session is available in the description of this video. You can use this code directly to practice this concept. Thanks for watching this video.